Hello and welcome to the Deeper Into the Woods podcast. We're so excited that you are here today, and I'm super excited because I have a good friend of mine, Jesse Nelson, who is not only a good friend, but he's also the co-owner, what are you? Co-owner of Overflow Taps in both Linden and Bellingham, Washington. I just wanted to bring him on the podcast today to just talk a little bit about some similarities in the coffee culture / beer culture that you see, and then just talk about business and how, starting a business is not always the funnest thing ever, and you really got to battle through some things to get to where you want to be. So, in all of that, welcome, Jesse. So
Thanks,
excited
brother.
that you're here. Why don't you just give us a quick, who are you?
A little quick rundown.
Yeah.
As Ryan said, Jesse's my first name. And, man, you want like the family history? Like you want it all? What do you want?
That.
Like where I started, where I'm at? Like anyway.
Nobody cares about that.
I own a couple tap houses in Bellingham with my business partner, Adam Stacy. And we donate a portion of every pint to soon to be a portion of everything in the store, which will be pretty rad, to help build wells in Africa. So that's the quick version of very quick. Yeah.
And I love that. So that's one of the things that I'm stoked on about what you guys do is the social aspects or social responsibility aspect of your business. And I think that's something that's, obviously very rare, especially in a craft beer industry. But actually making your business do good things for the world. Yeah. Just tell us a little bit about that and who you've partnered with and kind of the heart behind it.
Yeah. I think before I started this business with Adam, I owned a little web design and marketing business, and I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And so I wanted to rebrand it as a social good business. Maybe 10% of the sales would go to something good, but I didn't necessarily know what. And so at that time, I was, how Facebook works. All of a sudden, I get this video across my feed. Just happened to be looking for something to give, and a video of Scott Harrison, the founder of Charity Water, came across my feed, and I felt very touched by this video. So I felt kind of called to action, if you will, to give to this charity. And so that's kind of how I came to want to give to the charity. But the charity is Charity Water. The founder is Scott Harrison. They've been around for about 10 years. Yeah. They have an interesting model, which is one of the reasons why we've stuck with them the whole way. Yeah. Is they have a 100% model. So 100% of the publicly donated money goes to building the wells or water projects. It's not just wells, but we just like to say wells, but there's a ton of different water projects going on. Biosand filters, things like that. Yeah. But, and that's very unique because if you donate $100 to Charity Water, it's all going towards the wells, and their the operational budget is privately funded, or they not necessarily always privately, but they'll throw events, or they have this program called The Well, which is like families who give every year just so that they can keep running their nonprofit, and we thought that was very, very unique. The idea was we'd change charities maybe every quarter, or every month, or every year, or something like that, But we found that building a relationship with this one charity has been very beneficial for the clean water crisis and also, our business as a whole as well.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. That was one of the first things that kind of drew me to what you were doing, and just sort of the culture that you were building around like, hey, let's rally behind a cause. Yeah. While, obviously enjoying craft beer. So it's exciting to hear, and it's exciting to see how you guys, are pushing through and kind of making a difference in that way.
Thanks, man.
Man, so that's so cool. As far as, rallying your team around a common goal and a common mission of providing clean water, to places that don't have it. And that's one of the things that I'm stoked about. With Overflow Taps, and just kind of getting to hear your heart behind that.
Yeah, man, rallying the team. So that's something I'm really focused on right now. And so as we decide what we're doing next for the company, so we've got 2 locations, and we actually had talked really early on about maybe opening up a third, and which we probably will do someday. But I I'm really trying to figure out how to. I know how. Now I'm actually trying to implement strategies on connecting our team to the mission.
Yeah.
So, which is something as simple as, I think the other day I took a screenshot, or I exported to PDF an email I got from one of the breweries in town that donated to our cause, and sent that in Slack and just said, hey, if you've ever thought that your time behind the bar doesn't matter, I've never thought that before for even a second in my life, because it doesn't happen without you, right? Mm-hmm. And so now I'm really trying to embrace my role in the company as connecting our team to the vision, to the mission of solving the global water crisis, and then the same thing with our guests.
Yeah.
So it's a big thing right now.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing, and that's something that we've us here at Woods have really tried to figure out as well.
Yeah,
and I know that we've talked about this.
Yeah, a lot.
Quite a bit. But really kind of how do you do that? How do you rally your team around something that's super near and dear to your heart? As a business owner, but how do you call your staff into that mission, and something that is really hard to do.
Yeah.
And for us, I mean, that's a really big part of why even this podcast exists for us.
Mm-hmm.
We have, 350 plus staff. And so we're trying to figure out how do
that's crazy.
How in the world do we talk to the most important people in our company, which is our in-store staff?
100%.
They're the ones that are interacting with guests. They're the ones that are actually making the difference every single
100.
day. Just in that interaction that they have thousands of times a day with guests. And so how in the world do you actually take that deep rooted connection with something and go this is how I want you to see the world through my eyes. You know? So what are your thoughts on that? How do you perceive that, or how do you see that happening?
Yeah. One thing that just kind of came to my mind was a story I heard recently. So this is obviously on an extreme level, but if you were on a flight to some keynote speech you were giving across country, and something
like a Gary Vayner,
like a Gary V, and something happened with your team, or maybe I don't know what that specifically would be, and you rerouted your flight, canceled the keynote, cost you $100,000 to come back and have an HR moment with your team member that really, really needed it, like a heart moment with your team member. That's an extreme version of it, but that would make that team member feel very, very important and valued, right? And believe in you as the person, connect with you, and then they connect with the mission. Mm-hmm. But some of the strategies, if you can just do that on a micro level, obviously multiple times, then they'll feel really, really connected. Yeah. It's interesting with your guys' business because you've got so many locations and the people are spread out over miles. Totally. That where ours, we just have the 2 locations, and so it's easy to connect, but
you can reach out and touch everybody.
Yep.
And actually physically impact them.
And I still feel like we don't do it enough,
Totally.
But even the littlest thing, just telling someone they're proud of, that you're proud of them, or that you're showing interest in what they're doing at school, or their kids or something like that. But it's got to come from the heart. It's not a fake thing. You either have it or you don't. You either care for another human being or you don't. Then you just have to show that care to your team, and that'll just resonate.
Yeah, and so one thing for us is instilling an intrinsic value into a staff member, barista. What is it that they are accomplishing in a day through making a cup of coffee and handing it to someone? What is that actually doing in the world?
Yeah, that's it.
And painting that picture, and that's hard to do because you're trying to quantify that in some meaningful way. But for us, it's almost like a butterfly effect type of thing, where, human beings just want to connect and they want to be seen. And our guests, speaking about our guests, I come through a Woods Coffee or I come through Overflow Taps, I'm looking for some sort of connection, right?
100.
I'm looking for someone to show me value, or to show me that I am valued, or that I'm important, or that I matter in some way.
Yep.
And so that's why I love the similarities in what we both do in our different companies, because we're both sort of targeting this bigger narrative, which is we play a small part in a really big story.
Yeah, that's it.
You know what I mean?
That's it.
And so you can't discount that. It's not like, I'm just serving coffee, or I'm just serving beer.
Yeah.
There's so much more there. And so you got to start to unpack it for people.
Yeah.
Have you been able to do that much? Like,
Yeah, and then how to communicate that, right? So like,
yeah, narrative.
yeah, the narrative is hard, and so I actually feel that in the beginning we did it really well. I think there's a cycle on how this works. So in the beginning we're really small. I'm working behind the bar 30, 40, 50 hours a week. Same with my business partners. And so you're there all the time. You're able to convey that message to your guests. You are the beer tender. I am the beer tender, and I'm just directly talking with the guests and connecting them to the cause, right? So every event I'm up on a little stage in our space. We have one location, and I'm talking always about the charity and connecting people always to the mission. And then as you start to focus more on the business versus being in the business, you start to step away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
And you as you move away from that, maybe new customers who come in get a little bit disconnected, or they're definitely not as connected as the original customers that came in from in the beginning, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to realize, oh no, like we're not doing a very good job at this.
Yeah.
Let's refocus on this. So it's just a constant self-evaluation of how are we doing with this in our business. And you can kind of see the thing. So it's like if you start losing some regulars, you start losing some team members, which just seems kind of odd, or you lose a couple at the same time, then you're starting to ask these questions. And hopefully you're getting that information in like one-on-ones and stuff, but you're starting to get these questions answered. You're like, okay, we need to refocus on the mission of the business and actually be able to connect the team members to that cause. So like for us, it might be as simple as what I want to start doing for our team members is donating a portion, like our company would donate a little bit for each employee I even hate the word employee, each team member. And under their email address, so then the charity would communicate to them as they're making progress on their well. So they would be getting those updates through our charity.
Gotcha.
And I think that would really help them feel connected to the charity.
Yeah.
And then with our guests, what I want to do, and you and I have talked about this a lot, with our guests, what I want to do, because I'm not there every day connecting them to the cause, I want to change kind of the flow within our space. So that way, the first time you're there, from the time you walk in to the time you walk out the door, or the time you walk in and sit down and enjoy your first pint, you know what's going on within the social good side of the business.
Yeah.
That's an area where we're not doing a very good job at within our spaces, and to some degree even on social media. So that's and again, that's that cycle I was talking about.
Yeah.
We're coming back to it and saying, okay, we're not doing this well enough. Let's start really focusing on this.
Yeah, and so it sounds like you're talking about how do we tell our story in a way
That's it.
that is going to bring people into it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's it.
And there's different levels of that too, because you've got different levels of involvement in the story.
Right.
Like what's the guest's role,
Yeah.
in the story, and then what's your bar? What do you call them? Bartenders? Not
Beer
bar-
tenders. Beer tenders. Yeah.
Yeah. Why don't we just
Respect.
We're gonna merge the two right now. Little
Yeah.
side note: we're just gonna be beeristas. How about that?
Beeristas. that'll be our new business together.
Yeah,
We'll hire
it's just a way that we
baristas.
can talk about our staff, all of our
That's great.
baristas. Right?
Baristas.
So our baristas, like, what role do they play?
Yeah.
When they show up to work, what's the thing that they are adding to the story?
Yeah.
So your guests have a role, your baristas have a role, and then you as an owner have a role.
Yeah.
And then everyone in between. And you have to narrate for everybody though.
Yeah.
In all these different places.
Yeah, and one thing you just kind of made me think about was we really focus on communicating to our guests that they're the hero in this kind of story, this narrative that we're creating, which you and I talk about a lot. Mm-hmm. We do it with our team members, but maybe not as much. So I might do it in a message, or I might do it at like a yearly, holiday party or something. But now what I'm thinking about is really making sure that they feel just as much of a hero as our guests do, because the reality is everything flows through the beer tenders, So this is great conversation right now.
Yeah, and that all stems from the story brand framework.
Yep.
Building a story brand with Donald Miller. Man,
and it makes a lot of sense.
Stuff.
Oh yeah.
Taking like and that's the whole point, right? Like if you as a business owner, or you as Overflow Taps, if you are the hero, no one else can be a part of that, because you're the one living that dream, and it's your thing, right? You're like, yeah, we're crushing it, man. Like, we're selling beer, we're building wells, all that stuff. And then no one else is really a part of it. So they're like, cool, man. Like, I'm stoked on what you're doing, but like, what's my job in that? What's my role?
Yeah.
Right? And so actually like communicating the fact that me as a person who just shows up to Overflow Taps, I buy a pint of beer boom, like that had just contributed to something bigger. And now I have a role to play in that.
That's it.
You know what I mean?
That's it.
And so in your case, it's almost a little easier
It is.
than ours. Cause
Yep.
for us, like our guests don't necessarily have like this role like that where
Yeah.
it's like, hey, buy a cup of coffee and build a well.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
not happening. But ultimately, you know, creating that narrative for a guest, what are they stepping into? You know,
Yeah.
obviously, you know, we have a charitable side of our business too that people can step into on various occasions. But what's the thing that this cup of coffee is doing for them in a day, you know?
Yeah.
Or what are they essentially, what are they embodying when they step into a Woods Coffee or an Overflow Taps? I just think those are like the coolest questions to ask ever, because it's like now you're literally giving your guests an identity
Yes.
that they can put on like a sweatshirt, you
Yep.
know, like boom, Overflow Taps,
Yes.
sweatshirt, Woods Coffee. Oh, I'm wearing it right now.
Yep.
Woods Coffee sweatshirt. You know what I mean? And that means something because of what you're doing.
100%.
Not just because it's a cool sweatshirt, but because, hey, this sweatshirt represents wells being
Yeah.
drilled. This sweatshirt represents community being community happening in an environment, you know, that you've created.
Yeah.
So these people feel seen, they feel valued. And I'm putting on the sweatshirt because I feel like I'm part of this community. And
That's
I feel
the
like
game.
we're doing good things, right?
Yep.
I feel like that's it. And so how do we, you know, cultivate that and just let it grow and create opportunities for people to step into
Yeah.
the story?
Yeah. What's funny is I almost feel like you could correlate that to merch sales. So like if your merch sales start to dip down, if you know 15, 20% or something, you're like, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
Who's in the tribe?
Yeah.
Our tribe members aren't buying the merch.
Yeah,
They're not in the tribe.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be kind of an interesting way to look at it. But I do want to give a little piece of like tactical advice while we're here
Totally.
because I just met with someone yesterday who I meet a lot of people now who want to start tap houses, right? And I'm sure it's the same for you guys sometimes about coffee places,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everyone wants to start a beer spot. And one piece of advice that I would give that we didn't listen to in the very beginning was, you know, you can give a little bit less at the start. So I believe in the social good model. I really believe in that model. But you can give a little at the start and then grow how much you give versus give a lot in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then have to feel the effects of that moving forward. Because that's a situation that we're in right now. Is we've given a lot over the last 3 years.
Totally.
Which is great. But now we're looking back and saying, okay, well, you know, we want to grow a little bit here within this business. And if we keep giving it all away, we're not necessarily going to be able to make it to be able to keep building the wells. And that's what it's all about, right? Is being able to build more wells. You've got to stay in business to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So just like an example I have would be my buddy Leo, who is a realtor. He started off by donating $500 a house sale to Charity Water. And I said, we were at dinner with him and his wife, my wife and I said, you know, you could do $100 and people will still feel awesome about the $100 that you give. And so the one piece of advice I would give is we're very grateful for what's happened so far, but the one piece of advice I would give is if you're going to start giving from the get-go, give a little bit, and then as things start to go, then give a little bit more. You know, give what you can kind of type gig. So for any listeners out there.
Yeah, that's super smart because, I mean, you're basically, if you're giving too much, you're sabotaging the very thing that is going to generate more give.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to be able to essentially run a tight ship and you have to profit before the charity can profit.
100%.
Yeah. Otherwise, you go away and then the charity gets nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you go away and the charity got everything, which would not be good
but it
either.
won't. But it won't continue.
Correct.
That stops.
Correct.
When you go out of business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's super smart. And as a business owner and starting a business from scratch, I mean, you're poor at the very beginning.
Very
it's
poor.
like, dude, you've poured everything into this, and we've talked about this on the podcast of like, there's no like, I know there's these sort of ideas like, oh, if you're a business owner, you must like be well off or something. There's some misnomer
really
out
dislike
there that's
that.
like, it's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
You're probably the poorest dude in the room because you poured everything into the shop. But
I almost used the word hate there, but I really dislike that thought process. I think there is a perception that if you own a business, and it's especially if it's a couple or a few years in, that you're doing really, really, really well. And the reality is, I mean, I haven't collected a salary in a year, and that's not because I'm trying to it's not poor me. Like my family is fine. We're in a position where we can do that, But the reality is that's what's needed to be done in order to make this business grow.
Yeah.
And it was actually very comforting. I was at a wedding recently, and Wes was there, and he had either seen a post. I don't know where he got this information, but he mentioned to me that, hey, I wanted to let you know that I didn't collect anything from Woods Coffee for a certain amount of locations, and it made me feel. It kind of comforted me a little bit because the decision that I'm making is valid. And that's happening with so many business owners out there. They're just not taking anything from the business because the less that you take, the more successful, hopefully, your business will be.
Mm-hmm. You can take that, what would have been your salary or whatever, and pour it back in, and then grow it to a point where you can healthily start to take a salary that's not going to catastrophically plummet the business. Because you're taking all the profit and all the reinvestment opportunity.
It goes into my pocket. It doesn't make any sense.
And so I love that, man. I love just the brutal honesty of saying, like, don't believe the hype or don't believe the Instagram version of success, because that's not real. Like you have to look at the nitty gritty, like the work that has to go in and the sacrifice that has to go in for everything to work. And then as you grow, that stuff starts to work out, and location number 3 comes, and then 4, and then 5 down the road. And now you're like, okay, like we're making a little bit more now. And now we have a little bit more wiggle room to actually make things work. And now it's a profitable business. And, obviously, Wes and his family, now my family, they went through that early on. We've been in business now for like almost 18 years. And so the every pathway is the same. Like our journey is the exact same journey that you're on as far as business ownership.
So true.
And you can't really get away from the fact that you just have to put in the time and you have to put in the effort and the sacrifice to make it happen, because otherwise it won't. No one else is going to do that work.
No. And you've got to just constantly be changing. I mean, you've got to be adapting. So it's like, we're 3.5 years in and we're adding food, and we added bottle fridge to be able to sell bottles to go. It's just like, what can we do to constantly change our business to be able to stay attractive to our guests? Because people do like to move on to kind of the shiny object, So it's like the new thing opens, they go there, they do their thing. So we've got to be able to evolve as a company to be able to get creative about how to bring in some extra revenue for the company so we can actually grow, And so not just staying back on your heels and not being ready to pivot, at least for us. Is really something that we're doing now that we're really grasping.
Yeah, you brought up something too a couple minutes ago too, where it's like, business is a struggle. But then other people see you like, hey, I want to open up a tap house, and then they come to you for advice, right? Yeah. And you're like, you have that thought in your head, you're like, what should I tell them?
I'm so transparent about it too.
I know, and that's the coolest thing ever.
Give them the keys to the castle.
That's the coolest thing ever, and I think that's right. That's so right. I mean, the same thing with us. Coffee shops pop up, and they're shiny and they're brand new, and people go to them. Awesome. Like we are stoked on that, because it's not just about Woods and Starbucks or Woods and whatever other competitor. Now it's about like coffee culture and building a really good like coffee ecosystem or beer ecosystem. Absolutely. And in Bellingham, like a lot of the breweries have sort of locked arms and said like, let's be more of a coalition. That's definitely the culture. Or like, more of a cohort to learn from each other and grow and sharpen each other, and everybody benefits in that model.
100.
Whereas, if you're just going to say, no, I've learned all these things and I'm going to keep them to myself and like maybe even sabotage these other guys, that's going to ultimately tank you.
Yeah.
Because now you're the guy who is basically the guy that everyone else is going after. Yeah. So we want to take that guy down because it's just wrong and it's just selfish, right?
Yeah.
So so you're obviously an open book. You share everything, and I love that. But where's your mind at in all of that?
In that conversation.
Why do you do that?
Yeah. So the reason why I do it is because when we started Overflow, we asked for a lot of help.
Totally.
We worked with breweries, we worked with tap houses, we met with tap house owners, brewery owners, restaurant owners to just get all the questions answered so we could be as prepared as possible to open up the tap house.
Yeah.
We had a good understanding of margins, which we probably wouldn't have had people weren't if they weren't transparent with us, and people gave us operational advice and what POSs they use, and just really, there's no reason to go into it blind when most people are willing to give you advice if you just ask it.
Totally.
And so that's one of the reasons why. One, it's just the human that I am. The other is people did it for me, so now I want to do it for them in return. So we may not give like if we have a spreadsheet that's like our magic, we may not give that piece out, but tactical advice on how to start a business or start a tap house, or help you answer the question on whether or not you should start one or not, is something I love to do for people. And I'll just tell them how it is. I'll tell them how much money we're making, how much it started, how much it costs to make one, to open one, the first one and the second one. I'll talk about partnerships and strengths that you need to have in order for it to be successful. Because ultimately what it comes down to is I can tell a person anything, but if their ownership isn't solid, if the foundation isn't strong, they're not going to make it either way.
Yeah.
So,
or their work ethic, or just.
So they might open one, but if they don't have a marketing plan, that's the big one for tap houses. If they don't have some kind of marketing strategy and they have poor ownership, it's not going to make it either way, whether I gave them the keys to the castles or not. If I didn't give them the keys to the castle and it's good ownership, they're going to figure it out and do well anyway. Winners win.
Yeah, you're more like giving them the plans to build their own castle, right? Like, hey, go do it, man. Here's everything I learned the hard way. I hope you don't have to learn it that way.
Yeah, there's a few things we don't give out, but I think any business does that. We've got a few things that do give us a bit of an advantage. Adam's very, very smart when it comes to the book. Well, everything when it comes to, that was about to lead into a bad thing, but really smart. And so we've got some procedures and some documents that we work on that really help our business. And we don't share that kind of stuff, but most businesses figure that stuff out on their own. They've got good head on their shoulders.
Another area that you and I kind of bro out on is kind of the marketing. And so obviously my role in Woods is all about marketing, all about sort of how we're storytelling, how we are bringing people into that story and all of that, and all the little details associated with it. Whereas, you guys are a startup and you're smaller and you are basically doing everything. You are the marketing team. You are everything, right? But we're able to kind of talk through, like what's working for you right now? What are some cool, digital strategies that you see that are kind of hot or whatever? And then play off each other, and what's working for you, what's working for us. And it's cool because it's not only like coffee and beer, it's like culture and culture. Oh, is it the same culture? It kind of is. It's kind of the same
thing. It really is.
It's just like a daytime and a nighttime thing. And we've even talked about having like one space where we share. I still want to do that.
It does kind of make sense.
The coffee kind of dwindles off during the day. Beer comes in.
It's been fun to watch your guys' brand actually, especially in recent years, as far as what's being portrayed on social media. There's definitely been I think it seems like there's definitely a push. I don't even know if it's a push. I think it's probably your customer base that's doing it, but that are really starting to post a lot of photos with your coffee, out adventuring, doing that kind of thing, which gives you content to be able to use to connect with your fan base, and that's been pretty rad to see.
Yeah, and one of the things within the story brand framework is like these images of what life should look like. Yeah, in our context.
I love it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, what does success, like that word success is kind of weird, but like what does, quote, the good life look like with a Woods coffee in your hand? Like, what is that? Yeah. Define it. Like for us, it's like, this is just like a thing that is the first part of an adventure for us, like your day is full of adventure. Yeah. And we figure out all that language, like what is it? Like, everybody is on some sort of adventure today. Yep. And obviously our brand is all about, like Pacific Northwest trees and adventure and hikes and all that kind of stuff, and really outdoorsy. And so how do you tie like this rooted thing of like my day and my adventure into this outdoor feel, this Pacific Northwest vibe? And so that's basically over the last couple of years, that's what we've done, is trying to figure out how a guest in woods would live their life, you know, or how they already are, and just tell the story and like, and bring other people into it. So now it's like every stinking day is an adventure for you. It's just like, what kind of adventure are you going to take today? Right. Are you going to work? Cause that's an adventure. Like, especially, I mean, in the context of the things that we've just been talking about, like we don't know what's going to happen today. You know, just today, I found out I forgot about a meeting that I'm supposed to have today, and I'm not ready for it. That's a crazy adventure, man. So anyways, you know, what's their journey? What does it look like? And what's the story we're telling? Because it's not about making up a story. It's about telling like what is real and what is happening. So then on Instagram, you see people in the woods context holding a woods cup in the middle of a forest, and you're like, dude, that's epic. Like, and we didn't go out and take that picture.
It's not staged.
It's not us. Like it's our actual culture. It's our actual guests going out and being the culture, doing what they do, and us just sharing it and saying like, yeah, you guys are like living it. Like, awesome.
Like that.
Like, and that's our way of just celebrating people.
Like
I mean, in your context, though, it's like you can't have beer everywhere. I don't know.
I thought about that a lot. I thought about that a lot. You don't see a lot of like, you know, pictures with guests with pint glasses out in the woods, you know, or something like that.
Well, dude, you could be the first.
I know. One of the things I've thought, I mean, you can see it with like, you see it with like growlers and a few other things, you know, but most of it's breweries posting about their own stuff. But one thing that I've kind of thought about with Overflow is, where was I going with this?
I don't know, but I just got this image in my mind of like something different. Okay, so hear me out for a second.
All right, let's hear this.
Sorry, I totally cut you off.
No, this is
but
great.
Your brain went
I was
blank
about
anyway.
to go, I was about to forget.
Which happens. So what if instead of wells for water, you were able to do a tap in the middle of a city where it's like, hey, this is the drinking fountain, but it's like
it's beer.
It's beer.
Oh man, I don't think that would go over very well.
You would screw over that city real quick, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if that would go over very well.
Okay, so water's way more important.
Well, one thing I've noticed, this is what I was going to say. One of the things I've noticed on social media for us, specifically Instagram, is if we post a photo of just a beer on the bar. I mean, it does okay. And it's not about the likes, really. I don't want to get too far into that because I think you should post the things like what you're saying. So if you guys are posting things that are connecting people to your brand and they're reposting things and it's not getting all the likes and stuff, that doesn't really matter. It's still the things that your customer base is resonating with. So for us, we've noticed is just a simple pint on a bar does okay. A pint where a team member is holding it and someone snapped a picture of them does a little better. A pint selfie does really, really, really well. And so it kind of ties back to what you were saying about their adventure, you know? So it's like, I think a guest can see themselves holding a beer.
Yeah. How do they enter the story?
Yeah.
I can see myself doing that with that girl. If that girl's holding a glass of beer and she looks stoked about it, I'm like, I want that. Yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah, that's something we've noticed a lot. Is just the beer photos. You got to do what you can do. And so we're not always around people to do those types of photos, but that's something we've really noticed is.
Yeah, and that's something too that with woods, like for us, we over the years, I mean, we obviously put a ton of effort into coffee. Like we are a coffee shop and coffee is what we do. But over the years, like you start to see the thing that you're serving as simply the mechanism for community or for that lifestyle to happen.
That's it.
Not to detract from it because it still really is like super important. Mm-hmm. Like you have to nail it. Like I know you don't make the beer, but the beer has to be great for people to show up.
The product has to be great.
The coffee has to be great. Mm-hmm. Like we have to get that right. But we can't stop there. Mm-hmm. And we can't assume that just because the coffee's great or the beer's great, that people are going to come or people are going to like be able to assimilate into that culture.
Yep.
Because that's not enough.
It's
like
not
there
enough at
has to
all.
be a culture and a humanity surrounding it, and you have to be actively inviting people into that. And so this is like an area where I feel like a lot of coffee shops sort of get it wrong, where it's like all about the coffee. Every image is a
Coffee bean.
a coffee bean
Yep.
or a latte with latte art, like
Yep.
a really nice, photo. But where does the guest find themselves in that? Like,
Yep.
where's the human aspect of it, right? And what's the identity that they're able to put on because of that?
Yeah.
Or where can they find connection?
That's what I was just talking about with the likes on social media. So
Yeah.
that latte art photo might do really, really, really well.
Because it is cool.
Yeah, and
Like,
then
it's awesome.
you might think as a business owner or maybe a CMO or something that's the direction we need to go because that photo just got a lot of likes. But the reality is that where's the guest can't really be a part of that photo.
Yeah.
Maybe some baristas.
Totally.
Some baristas could probably be a
Well,
part
and
of
that's
that.
the thing too. And for us, it's like, what's like the most important thing we have? What's the thing that sets us apart from anywhere else? And it's our staff. Like, it's our people, because they're just great people and they're genuinely stoked to serve people well and to connect in that level. While serving coffee, obviously they have thousands of things to do in a day, but that connection is really important. And so if we just showed a cup of coffee, like we've now discarded
Yep.
all of that good stuff that we're actually really working hard to create in our
Yeah.
business. So
I think a lot about
so we need
that.
to show that. Why aren't
think
we
a lot
showing
about
that?
that.
Showing the connection piece. And you can't just be like snapping photos of all your customers.
Yeah.
But kind of what we've found is that guests are doing that anyway. They're doing it. So how about we just kind of celebrate that and share their stuff, because that's where it's happening and that's real. Like, that's the actual stuff that's going on. So share it.
Letting the market dictate how you
How we market.
Yep, how you market. That makes a lot of sense to me.
That's cool, man.
Right?
That's a phrase right there.
Letting
That's a Jesse Nelson. Let the market
It's going on a
dictate how
t-shirt.
you market.
Yeah,
That's
I
really
haven't
good.
really thought about that before. But that's definitely. I mean, I always think about
You
letting the
copyright
market dictate your prices. That makes a lot of sense to me. But letting the market dictate how you market. I mean, just watching what they're doing. All that. I spend a lot of time on social media just watching how people are interacting with our content, going into their profiles and seeing what they're doing, and like, because I want to see what our customer base is actually doing so that we have a better understanding on how to connect with them on a deeper level, right? And that might even go to where I see them at the tap house and I know something about them that I maybe would not have known had I not been on their profile. Like,
if you hadn't been stalking them.
might have hadn't been stalking them. But I think you have to do that. I really think you have to do that. You have to spend time there.
Well, it shows your level of investment into your culture.
Yeah. And one thing you mentioned a second ago was, would you say coffee is a commodity?
Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
So is craft beer.
Yeah.
So when you have a product that is a commodity, you have to figure out a way to stand out and connect people to something other than that commodity, which is basically what you were just talking about. With you could have a good product, you have good coffee, but since coffee is a commodity, you're not the only coffee place in a 200-mile radius. That you have to really get creative about how you connect people to your brand. It always has to be a thought. It can never, like, we have a good product, but it's a commodity. You can get craft beer anywhere. And so we have to be constantly thinking about how do we connect people to what we do? How do we connect people to the mission? And how do we truly make them the hero in some kind of story, so that way they don't just think of our spot as a commodity.
Yeah, totally. I know. Yeah. As you start to talk about, like, especially in your case, and I start to think about that, you're serving the exact same product as like the dude down the street, essentially.
100%.
So are we.
Yeah.
But like any brewery, like, you're serving the brewery's beer and they are serving their own beer too. But I think something cool about like the tap house is I can go to one place and get a variety of different beers, and I don't have to get only the beer from that brewery. But deeper than that is that you're creating like this curation, like a curated list of, because that's one thing that is tough for me. Like, I mean, I like beer. Like, I can't drink it all the time. But for me, like, I kind of want someone to curate it for me.
Yeah,
I
think
want
about
that. I want someone who knows what they're doing to be able to tell me what's good and curate a list for me and go, this are kind of like the top 5 that we've found. We've been out tasting everything. Here it is. And it's like, poof. So now you've got this model where it's like, well, I want to go there because I feel like they've already done all the work for me.
That's how it should be. That's exactly right. It's like if I don't remember exactly what the data is, but if you make a suggestion to someone, if you suggest a beer to them, so maybe you figure out a style. What do you normally drink? I like IPA as well. This IPA is, even if you say something as even if you haven't even tasted that beer, you say this IPA is phenomenal. The other customers love this, and the odds of them buying that beer or that IPA or at least tasting it are much higher than if you didn't make that suggestion.
Yeah, because now you've validated it in some way.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, so I mean, I just think that's a huge leg up for a tap house.
Yeah,
of just kind of having this curated list of here are all the top beers from that whole area.
Yeah,
and
we've got a guy. So we've got so Adam, the other business owner, he curates the tap list. He does all the beer, everything beer in the business. And we make, our team and even myself might say, hey, this is a beer that we saw that we want to see if you can get. But I mean, 99.9% of the curation is done by Adam. And that's a critical role.
Totally.
It goes back to what I was talking about earlier with if you're trying to start a tap house and that's not a strength of yours, and then you're depending on distributors to make the decisions for you, you're not going to be curating the best, tap list that you can.
Yeah, because I mean, a distributor, they're going to sell what they distribute, and what they want to sell you, and what's in their best interest.
Yeah, I mean, and rightfully so,
totally.
They're a business as well. So having an understanding about beer and being able to curate a tap list, and that's something I think about too. So the story you just gave me just now about curating tap lists, and there's a selection at a tap house, and it's been curated for you, and someone helps you make the decision. That's something that I've been thinking quite a bit on in the marketing strategy, because it's not just about someone holding a beer. In our market, it is also about the beer that was just put on. That beer that people don't know about, but they've heard about it and they haven't had a chance to get it yet. So then it's combining all those. Maybe it's having a beer tender hold that beer, and then you talk about that beer. We have to figure out a way to be able to show the things that have been tapped on a regular basis.
Yeah, highlighting the curated list, but then also inviting your guest into it. This is this is the best stuff we've found. Come and enjoy it. Versus trying to throw
a right hook, right? Versus trying to trying to sell them on it, really.
Yeah, it's more about how are you serving people by curating the list.
That's it.
You know what I mean? Like, not come buy our beer, but hey, we've created this for you. We've crafted this list for you.
Yeah.
And we've done a ton of work to get it to this point for you. Like, this is for you.
Yeah.
This is a gift. Come on in and we'd love to give it to you.
Yeah.
Rather than come buy beer.
Yeah, we're constantly trying to curate a list that we think our guests will love.
Totally.
It's not about us. And there's so many of those beers up there I've never even tasted before.
Yeah.
So we don't get to taste all the ones that go on.
So one of the things I love about what you guys do is I'm able to not ever have to think about it. I don't ever have to think about beer. I mean, I'm thinking about coffee. I don't need to think about beer too.
Right.
So I can show up and I know, like, okay, all these are going to be good.
Yeah.
Because you guys have done the work.
Appreciate that.
And I think, and there's always something I've never even heard of on the board where it's like, it's not just the breweries that are around here. It's like you've gone and done some research outside the area, brought stuff in, and it's like, okay, like I'm just going to give this a shot. And I've discovered some beers that I've just loved because of that, where if I was going to our brewery, if I was going to the breweries locally here, that's all I get.
Yeah.
Which is all great stuff. Like, we've got some stinking killer breweries in
the
town
more
here,
you trust us, the more you'll be willing to try the things that we suggest.
Totally.
Most people, not most, but there's a lot of people who came in that they really wanted like a Bud Light or a Coors Light, which we don't sell, right? And so how to get them to taste the Pilsner and then introduce them into an amber and introduce them into an IPA, and then the more they trust us, the more they're willing to try that barrel-aged brown ale they would have never tried before, but because they trust us, they'll take a sip of it and like, oh, I really like this. Now all of a sudden they're a brown ale fan. So the more trust that you can gain, the better off it is for expanding the palates.
Yeah, and it's better for your guests. Like, you're ultimately doing it for them, and you're taking them on this sort of beer journey, which is super cool. And no one's going to do that themselves, you know, like they're not going to travel all over the place.
No.
But you're kind of doing that for them. And I think there's significant value there. And I don't know how you're going to push into that, but that's super cool.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Market too. Wait, what was that line again?
Let the market
define how you market.
Yeah, define how you market.
That's clutch, man. I'm going
I'm going to LinkedIn right when we're done here, and I'm putting that on. I'm not even kidding.
You're going to type that in. Dang it, someone already used it.
Yeah.
Let the market define how you market. Man, I think, we've kind of covered a lot of ground here today. And I think this conversation has been stellar, man. Thanks for coming.
I appreciate it.
But also, I just wanted to kind of get to a little bit, just real quickly, about just kind of the behind the scenes. Like we talk. Okay, let me start over. We talk a lot about inner narrative. Like, what's the thing that's sort of driving your thinking on any given day, right? And if you sort of leave thoughts in your mind, they start to tend to go negative usually, like most people, for me me especially, like
even positive thoughts.
Yeah, whatever it is, like what's your thinking strategy? How do you keep your brain healthy?
It's impact. So the way I think about my life is impact. So if I'm going to touch a couple things because you talked about kind of negative thoughts. So if you hold on to something so long, it might can turn negative. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, or you have an internal dialogue that's like, I'm not worth it. Like I can't do it. Like those kinds of things. That's it.
And so I'm speaking, to our staff and things like this, where it's like how are you managing your mindset to actually make impact? I like the word impact. We have a job to do. We have a calling on that job and a mission around it. Yeah. How do you protect it with your brain? Yeah.
You first have to figure that out in your personal life before you can actually even try to do it within the job that you have, right?
Yeah, that's good.
And so if you have those thoughts kind of creep in, like for me, I'm thinking about what is my purpose in life. So if you can figure out what your purpose is in life and really work on that, what is my purpose in life? Then you can always resort to that. So for me, my purpose is impact. I want to impact someone. Like I walked in here today and what was your name again? Mark. I met Mark for the first time. I won't forget your name now. And the first thing I wanted to do was think about some way that I can impact him in a positive way. And it's not something, which I haven't done yet, but I'm going to. It's something that is, it's almost can be perceived as a strategy, but it's just the way that I'm wired. And I want to do that all the time. So if I start to think, and I do have that where like, I'll think I'm not working hard enough. That's a big one for me. Like I'm always like, I'm not working hard enough. And then so what I've now started to do is I just want to win each day. I just want to win the day. And so
you're taking it to a smaller victory.
Which means I just want to win the moment. Yeah. So in this moment, I'm having this thought in my head, but I want to win this battle right now in my head. How do I win this battle? I'm going to focus on my purpose, which is impact. And so strategy might be for me just looking at a video of a charity water video, and all of a sudden I feel my purpose again, and now I'm refired up to go do my thing. Totally. Or message the wife and tell her I love her and get that message back, and then just what's my purpose in life. I think that's kind of how I navigate that. Impact is a big one for me.
Yeah, that's good, and I like how you kind of gave a little strategy there too. It's not like your overall giant macro impact. Right. It's not, It's not what is my life's goal.
Correct.
It was like all the way down to the minute.
Yeah.
Like bring it all the way down. Like what's my impact for this moment?
Yeah.
That's huge. And now you're actually chopping it up into bite-sized pieces that over time will obviously add up to that big thing, but it's not about the big thing. No. That's sort of the outcome, but how do you do the little things well?
That's it.
Every day.
That's it.
And then,
am I impacting, like if I just think in this very moment, am I impacting another person? Like for another strategy would be like in our case would be like a beer tender. And maybe they're having an off day and they've got a guest sitting at the bar, and just thinking like, what's my purpose in life? For me, it would be impact. So it's like, am I impacting this person in a positive way right now?
Yeah.
I'm not. Then flip the script, and now I'm impacting this person in a positive way, and then I start feeling good about
Which
that.
Which is positive for you
100%,
as well.
100%.
Yeah, giving, it's like such a weird upside down thing, but like by giving, by creating impact in other people, it creates an impact on your life too.
Absolutely, and you shouldn't feel bad about that. I say that's kind of a selfish thing. It's kind of a selfish thing for me. I feel for me, I'm doing these things actually helps me feel better. I'm not doing them because they make me feel better, even though that's what's happening.
Byproduct.
It's a byproduct.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a selfish feeling to be like, all right, I'm feeling really good. I did a lot of good things today for people. You know, we donated $6,000 to a well. Makes me feel very, very, very good inside.
Yeah.
Or writing $1,000 check or something to like some nonprofit here in town or something like that, and it impacts a human's life in a positive way.
Yeah.
I mean, if those things make me feel good, and actually this business has really helped me understand my purpose. It's like every time we do something special, really special for someone, it's not always money. I use money as an example just now, but anytime we can touch someone's life in a positive way, I feel something inside of me, and then I know this is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah, and you're bringing it down even just to the, hey, I'm going to learn this guy's name. I'm going to learn, hey,
Yeah,
Mark.
Mark.
Like, yeah, so now you know Mark, and so now you're like, I'm going to dedicate my mind in this moment to learning about him and you know, and actually how to make a difference in this moment.
He's got a hat on right now with an M on it, and that's how I'm going to forever remember his name.
M for Mark.
Yep.
And Make Worth Market. There's like lots of M's there. Mark likes Make Worth Market. That's like one of those little. I like Make Worth Market too, Mark.
I like this cross promotion. This is great. Hope it makes it on the show.
Yeah, dude. Well, hopefully at some point, you know, we can get the Make Worth fam up here. And we can
figure
talk
out your
coffee.
purpose, and have a positive impact on people around you. I think that's the game right there.
Dude, I love that. That's a perfect note to end on. So let's do it, man. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, man.
For being willing to come out here and just like talk shop, be vulnerable with us, and hopefully teach our baristas something.
We have a lot of baristas at Overflow.
Yeah.
There were previous, baristas.
Yeah,
so.
people that you stole from Woods.
Well, sometimes.
That's right. We train them.
I'll take them. Yeah. Thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, likewise. I'm just stoked that we get to kind of do this side by side and together.
We pretty much do this every other Wednesday anyway.
We meet often. But anyways, hey, thanks so much for sticking with us and listening to this podcast. I love it. I would absolutely love it if you would review it, if you would subscribe, do all those crazy things that would just make this kind of further spread the word. So thank you so much for being here. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on the podcast. Stick around for the next one. Bye-bye.